Local news, sports, talk, and community connection for the North Bay.
When news breaks or emergencies occur, tune us right in.
The Vine at 99.3 FM.
And to get posted updates on emergency situations, follow us on Facebook.
For podcast and broadcasting schedules, go to our website.
99.3 The Vine is owned and operated locally by Wind-Down Media.
I am being joined today by Napa Firewise, and so important for our valley, especially, where we live. We've been needing these guys time and time again. Being joined by Joe Nordlinger, he is the Napa Firewise CEO, and Christopher Thompson, Napa Firewise Board Chairman, is joining us by phone. Hi, guys. How are you today?
Doing great. Thanks, Robin, for having us.
Oh, yeah, absolutely.
Good morning.
Good morning. All right. So tell us first, I want to know a little bit about what Napa Firewise is, first of all. It's one of those, not terms, but places, things, organizations that we've heard about over the years. A lot of people might not be super familiar. I do know it's often described as one of those the most forward-thinking wildfire preparedness organizations in the region. But what is it that you do? Tell us a little bit about where you started, how you got to where you are now.
Absolutely, and thanks for having us and highlighting the issue, Robin. It's really important for the Valley. Napa Firewise is a 501c3. We're a community benefit corporation, and we're focused on improving wildfire safety, wildfire resilience in the county. We're organized as a 501c3 with a board of directors who are all volunteers, leaders in the community. Christopher can speak a little bit about that. And we have paid staff, and we're really focused on improving fuel reduction projects to improve fire safety, wildfire preparedness, educating the community, and helping with cost share programs. And Christopher can talk a little bit about the composition of our board. We've got a phenomenal board of directors.
Sounds great. Christopher, tell us a little bit about the board. What are you guys all about?
Absolutely. So I would add that, our objective as an organization is to bring about a wildfire-adapted community. And we've created a board of directors that are very forward-thinking leaders in their individual fields. All of us combined are carrying out the mission of the NCFF, Napa Firewise, which is education and outreach, fuel mitigation, coordinating with other local agencies, fire department, and fuel mitigation agencies in the county. Our board, we have people who specialize in law, people who are in the wine industry, people who are in marketing. I'm an electrical engineer by trade. So all of these combined talents have led to a very aggressive push to get the community safer.
Well, I like the sound of that. Especially over the last 10 years, we've certainly had our share of need to be safer. Now, funding for wildfire prevention is notoriously complex. There's all sorts of things that go into it. How do you approach this challenge, and who is responsible for paying for protecting our county?
Yeah, one of the things about wildfire, it is a very complex and an expensive challenge to tackle. One of the things that Napa Firewise has done is early on, we really tried to sort of come up with a total price tag. What is it going to cost to achieve comprehensive wildfire resilience in the county? And it's a substantial number, but it pales in comparison to the costs of really devastating wildfires. And so we've got sort of a sense for what it's going to take over the next 10 years to achieve what we call comprehensive wildfire resilience. And it's, about $200 million or so, but we have a pretty good handle on where that money is going to come from. And one of the things that we're pretty good at Napa Firewise is figuring out how to take a dollar, whether it's a grant dollar or a county contract dollar or a donation from the Napa Valley Ventners or an individual donor, and using that dollar to unlock additional dollars. So we have a really fantastic grant team. We know how to leverage a match dollar to unlock additional dollars, and we're pretty good at figuring out how to sort of build grant applications, build and develop projects that leverage different kinds of money, private donor dollars, grant dollars, helping landowners to spend their own money more intelligently in wildfire resilience. And it's really the combination of this sort of structured way of financing the projects that allows us to get more work done and leverage each dollar that we get.
All right. Anything to add, Christopher?
I think that sums it up nicely. Our biggest partner, two partners, obviously, is the county. They've worked in lockstep with us, helping us with funding. And also, of course, Napa County Fire Department in conjunction with CAL FIRE, two very important partners in our quest to get our community wildfire adapted.
And Christopher often likes to say that, like in firefighting, when you have, a really good tool or you have an apparatus or a plane, these things are considered force multipliers. Mm-hmm. They essentially allow a given effort to be multiplied, the effectiveness of it. And so that's sort of a term that we often use at Napa Firewise about our ability to raise and optimize the use of a dollar for the county or for CAL FIRE. We're sort of a force multiplier on that funding.
Right. Well, can you walk us through how Napa Firewise blends the public funds, private philanthropy, grants? It sounds like there's so much money coming from different places. How does it all get blended and worked out?
Yeah, so I described earlier what those different sources of funds are, and the way that we sort of blend those funds is really when we look at a given project. That project might occur on private land and public land. That project might occur, let's say it's a fuel management project. It might occur in an area that is next to PG&E utility lines. Mm-hmm. And so whenever we're developing a project, we're sort of looking at who are the large landowners that are in that area that would have an incentive to improve the wildfire resilience of that area. And then if there's some sort of physical infrastructure, power lines, then we'll reach out and say, hey, PG&E, we're looking for support on this project because you've got power lines running in that area. There may be a substantial county road that goes through there. And so the county has sort of recognized they have an obligation when it comes to fuel mitigation on certain county roads. And the county, just to make the note here, they've really stepped up in major ways in the last 5 years through a variety of different funding sources. And we've completed fuel management on virtually all of the county roads, and we're just in a maintenance mode. So we look at every project and we try to sort of figure out who are the participants in that project, who are the beneficiaries, and then we go about constructing and developing the project in such a way that we can sort of optimize the use of those dollars, whether it's donated dollars, helping landowners to spend their own money, or grant funds from entities that have an interest in that particular area.
Oh, that's fantastic. So many counties rely heavily on limited CAL FIRE or FEMA dollars. What lessons do you think that others could learn from Napa's model? It sounds like we're getting this dialed in.
I would say, Napa is considered pretty forward-leaning. We have a lot of some structural advantages here in the county. We have a CAL FIRE contract, so we don't deal with 20 different fire districts. We don't have 9 different nonprofits or 15 different nonprofits that are all focused on wildfire resilience. So structurally, we have sort of fewer players, which are where we all kind of lock arms and we have sort of an aligned strategy about how we're going to achieve this. We work very closely with the Resource Conservation District, with the Natural Resource Conservation Services, with the Land Trust, with the Napa Valley Vintners. So there are fewer players, and we all sort of are aligned around a kind of a larger vision about how to achieve this. Napa County is obviously a substantial partner of us in this effort. And so to the extent that there are lessons that can be applied to other counties, and we often have counties reach out to us and consult with us about, how does Napa Firewise do this, or how does Napa County achieve these kinds of results, we really try to encourage them to think about that sort of alignment, centralization. If you can have fewer players that are sort of focused on achieving these things, your dollar goes farther, and you wind up having sort of less issues with sort of structural fragmentation. And oftentimes when we think about wildfire resilience, it's one of these things that suffers most from complacency. People it starts to fall off the people's radar, and then just highly fragmented efforts are really challenging. Christopher,
go ahead. I would just add to that I think that what has to take place in counties is a paradigm shift, and that fuel mitigation and becoming wildfire adapted, it has to be part of the program. Just like water, electricity, and sewage, it needs to be dialed in as part of a program, and not just an embellishment, something that you add on after you've had a bad fire. Right. So we are gifted in that the county has taken that posture, and that they see that fuel mitigation is part of the way of life in the county, and so it's not a hard sell.
Right. It's always fresh in our mind right after we've gotten through a major fire, but the whole point is we don't really want to have to deal with that again, or go through that again. So I love that you guys have worked so hard on the maintenance of this. We are speaking with Joe Nordlinger and Christopher Thompson with Napa Firewise. Now, you guys, we've heard a lot about the Valley Stewards Initiative. Talk to me about that. What's the goal? How is it being funded? How is it different than any other work that you're doing?
Yeah, happy to speak to it. So the Valley Stewards Initiative is something that we've worked on developing over the last 18 months. We did it in close coordination with CAL FIRE, with the Napa Valley Vintners, with a number of really large landowners, and we've also socialized this concept with quite a number of insurance companies. And what it is we're essentially going back to sort of how we utilize different kinds of funds. We've sort of figured out that as a 501c3, we have the ability to sort of optimize the use of a donated dollar, a grant dollar that we control or influence, or helping landowners to spend their money more correctly. And the Valley Stewards Initiative is really focused on improving wildfire response and more rapid containment. And at its most basic level, what it says is we're out there doing lots of great fuel management work. Landowners are doing lots of great fuel management work. They're making these investments. And in many respects, we are a far more resilient county today than we were back in 2017. People have invested in generators and battery backup and more water storage. And Napa Firewise, in conjunction with all of our partners, the county, et cetera, have done a lot of fuel management. Landowners have done a lot of fuel management. And the trick, what we've recognized, is we really need to take all of that work and make sure that it's mapped correctly. All those resilience investments need to be mapped so that firefighters can leverage that data more quickly in a wildfire situation. It's very difficult in a fire if firefighters are forced to sort of go into exploratory mode and figure out how do we get to that ridgetop. If we already know that there's a good roaded access there, that there's good fuel reduction, that there's a lot of water there, whether it's us doing the work at Firewise or landowners doing it, we capture that data and we integrate it into the wildfire response strategy through a system, the platform that CAL FIRE and Napa County Fire and outside fire responders use. And that means that firefighters are able to make better decisions more quickly and contain fires more rapidly. And the Valley Stewards Initiative is really that. We're working to map these resilience investments and get them as actionable intelligence so that firefighters can use that data more quickly and effectively in an actual firefighting event.
And I'll add to that in a large fire, you have a lot of firefighters and apparatus that come in from outside the county. And what Joe's speaking to is a map and system that disseminates information very quickly to people who are not familiar with the area. They don't know the fuel modeling. They don't know the topography. They don't know the neighborhoods and so forth. And that information will be instantaneous. So it's a very powerful tool.
That's fantastic, because you being here as part of Napa Firewise are very familiar with our valley, but we all know when those major wildfires come, we see the trucks coming from Oregon and Nevada and everywhere to come and help out, as we all do, to help each other. So what a great tool to make the topography and everything else that's necessary easily available. Now, we've had our major wildfires in 2017, 2020, and we hear the term resilience a lot, used as a buzzword. It's just one of those words that keeps coming up. I like to think we're pretty resilient as a county, as a valley. What does a fire resilient Napa County actually look like, and how do we get there?
Yeah, before Joe answers that, I just want to quickly add to say that what I like people to think of, and Joe will add color to this, is the saying that was given to me by one of our county fire chiefs, that if you want to control fire behavior, you control the fuel that feeds the fire. And if you think about that, then that gives you a very firm direction on what we're doing. We are removing fuels, and in doing so, we can better control fire behavior.
Yeah, I think that's spot on. And really, resilience is about adaptability. Mm-hmm. And obviously, Napa County, our residents have adapted. We've had to respond to devastating wildfires in 17 and 20. And the reality is that we have the ability to adapt to fire such that it does not need to be nearly as destructive. And we can do that through fuel management, proactively doing prescribed fire. We can do it proactively doing other veg management treatments. We can do it proactively by making sure that homeowners have battery backup or generators so that when we can do a power safety shutoff, that they're still able to access power. We're more resilient if we have better notifications, better weather forecasting, better visibility into high wind events, red flag events. All of these things mean that the county and its residents can adapt and prepare for wildfire. We can be more educated and informed, and we have the ability to sort of really manage fire on our terms. Controlled fire is a really powerful thing, and in the late fall, prior to the winter, or in the late spring, we have the ability to burn on our own terms, not right when there's a weather event, but when we want to burn, and we can get appropriate resources there. So a lot of resilience is just sort of really working to outwit something that is as devastating as fire, and doing and managing all of the efforts and the work around wildfire preparedness and mitigation when we're doing it when we control the variables.
Right. On our terms.
On our terms, exactly.
Well, I'm speaking with Joe Nordlinger and Christopher Thompson with Napa Firewise. Gentlemen, what is the most urgent challenge that you're solving right now? And how can our listeners be part of that solution? Because we all know we're better as a community when we all are working together and we're all prepared.
Yeah, I would say, and Christopher can add on to this, a lot of it is just preparedness and awareness. We want folks, fire is one of these things that can feel very overwhelming and difficult to sort of comprehend, and there are things that we can do around wildfire. Napa Firewise, our board, our fire safe councils, working with all of our partners, is really mapping out a path forward that gives us better visibility, better actionable intelligence, more tangible things that we can do. And so, we just encourage people to stay engaged on the issue, not to feel too overwhelmed by it. There are great resources that are available, not just from Napa Firewise, but from our partners at the county and elsewhere. And to recognize that while it is a complex issue, there are really good paths and good solutions that are out there, and to make sure that we sort of align our resources and really drive kind of in a concerted way to address some of the risks associated with wildfire. And Christopher, you can add on to this.
Yeah,
as well, I'm sure.
I was in Los Angeles the morning that the fire broke out in Pacific Palisades, and I would say that what I saw and what we have overcome as a county is situational awareness. People in Napa County pay attention. They know now where to get information. They know what apps to have on their phone. They know to sign up to Nexel. They understand the importance of being situationally aware, especially, as Joe pointed out, when there's a wind event or when we have a red flag and things of that nature. And then, in addition to that, I would say that there's a lot of responsibility that homeowners need to take on themselves. Ignition-resistant construction, the right kinds of vents on their homes, defensible space, and those requirements. All of those things are what homeowners in the valley, all up and down the county, need to embrace in order to be wildfire adapted. And that gets back to the education and outreach. And I think we've done a really good job in getting that information out and disseminated across the communities, and people have done a good job embracing it and acting upon it. And if there's a lesson to be learned in Los Angeles, and this is a lot of the questions that I get when I talk to people from the LA market, which is, how did you get where you are, and how do we get there? What is the process? So we have a lot to be very proud of as a community.
Oh, it's fantastic to hear that we're being seen as sort of the model to look to. And I hate to say it's like a live and learn experience, but I do, just from a layperson standpoint, I remember 2017 being a little more frantic feeling. And by 2020, we had been here before and had a little more of a grasp on it. And I'd love to say we won't be having another major wildfire event and we're all done, but just being where we are, I doubt that's true. But it sounds like we have so many great things in place, and we know what we're doing a lot more. And
yeah, we've made a lot of progress.
We can't,
go ahead, Christopher.
Yeah, we're never going to be able to stop vegetation fires, wildland fires, but we can manage the risk that they pose on a community if we do all the things that we're advocating for.
Yeah, and we've made a lot of progress, and we've developed this Valley Stewards Initiative that we've developed is a really fantastic framework for larger landowners that are out in rural Napa to engage in a process where we can help them think through these resilience investments. We can help make sure that the investments that they've made or that they're going to make are actionable and can be leveraged by firefighters. And so, really this is about pulling people into a process where they can engage and feel like there's actually a solution, because wildfire is one of these things that just can very quickly feel like it's too overwhelming. What do I do?
For sure.
And the reality is we've sort of at Napa Firewise really tried to think about what's that resident, what's that customer experience like, and how do we provide them with information that is actionable, that's easy to take on, and that can better help to sort of manage the process so that they feel like there's a real clear and productive outcome.
Well, fantastic. I hate to say I'm feeling confident as we head into fire season, but honestly, everything you're telling me makes me feel so much better and at ease about what we'll be facing if another one were to happen. I've been speaking with Joe Nordlinger and Christopher Thompson with Napa Firewise. Thank you, gentlemen, so much for not just sharing all this information with us, but for all the work that you do on a daily, annual basis for our community, our county, our valley. It's really absolutely priceless. Thank you so much.
Thanks for highlighting the issue.
Thank you for having us.
Oh, absolutely.
Local news, sports, talk, and community connection for the North Bay.
When news breaks or emergencies occur, tune us right in.
The Vine at 99.3 FM.
And to get posted updates on emergency situations, follow us on Facebook.
For podcast and broadcasting schedules, go to our website.
99.3 The Vine is owned and operated locally by Wind Down Media.